es tu oportunidad. Prepárate para ser un misionero desde cualquier parte del mundo. Escuela de Misión Online, tu oportunidad de encontrar las herramientas necesarias para la misión. En 3 idiomas y con expositores de diferentes partes del mundo. Todo esto totalmente gratis. Vive la experiencia de Escuela de Misión sin importar dónde estés y sé un misionero en cualquier parte del mundo. Escuela de Misión, tu viaje comienza aquí.
Hi guys, welcome to our last School of Mission class. We're so sad that we're almost over with this course, but we hope there's been a tremendous growth for both you and I.
Yes, and the truth is that it has been a pleasure for us to have accompanied you throughout all of this process to prepare us to serve our God.
Now, today we want to thank everyone that's been part of this process. I mean, every department that's been part of this whole process. And we're not going to mention each one of them because we're surely going to leave someone out, but we want to show you why we're so thankful.
How nice it is, right, to see so many people involved. All this would not have been possible without each and every one of them. Each of the teachers who shared with us, each of their experiences, our missionaries who infected us with that desire to go out and fulfill the mission that God left us. Our Mission School Commission, and each one of the students who participated, whether recording, translating, editing. Many people who have been behind all of this. And of course, thanks to you, who are on the other side preparing to fulfill the great mission of taking the message to the whole world.
Surely we have a lot to thank God for. So like every Sabbath, we're going to ask someone to pray with us, to ask God to be with us throughout this class. And for that, we're going to ask Pastor Lucas Munoz, the coordinator of the volunteer service here at La UAP, to pray with us, and who also has a special message for you.
Querido misionero, quiero felicitarte porque has llegado hasta aquí y espero que cada clase haya sido de bendición para ti y para tu ministerio. Vamos a orar en este momento. Padre nuestro que estás en los cielos, gracias Señor porque tú nos has acompañado en cada clase, porque tú nos brindas herramientas, oportunidades para poder servirte. Te pido Padre que en esta última clase lo vuelvas a hacer, vuelvas a bendecir, no solamente al profesor, sino también a cada uno de los chicos, los jóvenes y las personas que están ahora asistiendo a este video, para que de esa forma podamos colocar nuestros sueños en tus manos y tú nos lleves hasta lo último de la tierra. Bendícenos, lo pedimos en el nombre de Jesús. Amén.
Thank you very much, Pastor, for joining us. And before we go to our missionary Lies No Vice, today we want to remind you of 2 things. Remember to take today's test, which is your last test, and then you will have finished reading this book. And the chapters you have to read is chapters 26 to 28. We also remind you that the final exam will be open from November 12th to November 20th. You will have over a week to take it, and you have completed this course.
And if you two can pass each one of the exams plus the final exam, you will be able to download your certificate from the campus virtual platform, And remember that the test will have to be passed with a minimum grade of 7 and an average of 8 among all the tests. Any questions, do not hesitate to contact us.
Now we're going to our last missionary guest. She's serving in Mongolia, and now she's going to tell us her beautiful testimony.
Hi guys, how are you? Nice to meet you. My name is Laís. I'm from Brazil, and I'm here right now in Turkey, in Istanbul. I'm gonna tell a little bit about my experience as a volunteer and as a missionary around the world. I hope this will be helpful for you and that you're gonna feel motivated about going around the world to serve the Lord. Okay, the first experience I had was when I went to Kyrgyzstan through the Adventist Volunteer Service, and I went there to Kyrgyzstan to teach students English. As you probably know, Kyrgyzstan is a country located in the window 1040, and it's one of the hardest place as well to talk about God and to serve because it's a Muslim country. But the experience I had there was amazing. I had many good opportunities to talk about Jesus and to experience my life and my belief to my students. I was teaching kids, adults in different schools, and we had also an English club that we were organizing every week. And it was amazing because we also had a small group that would invite people to come, and we would praise the Lord, we would sing, we would share messages from the Bible, and even Muslims would join us and come into our small group. So it was amazing to be there and to have this experience. After Kyrgyzstan, I went back to Brazil, but after some time, I went back to the mission field and to Egypt. I was in Nayuyun Academy, serving there for 10 months. Actually, I came to Turkey this year. I left Egypt like 4 months ago. But I was there serving the Lord as a preschool teacher, and this was an amazing experience I had. Egypt is one of the hardest countries I've ever been to. It's a very traditional and conservative country, much more than Kyrgyzstan, for example, although both of them are Muslim countries, and here as well in Turkey, where I am right now. So the challenge was much bigger, to live and to share about my faith. But as we were saying, I was a preschool teacher, so I was teaching kids, and I was living in a boarding school, Adventist school, where most of the students, actually all of the students who study there are Christians. But the project was participating. Actually, we worked with people from the community. So the kids that were going to the preschool I was teaching, they were not from church, they were not Adventists, they were not Christians. Some of them actually were Christians, but most of them, they were coming from Muslim background, and usually poor people as well. And it was really nice to give love to those kids, to try to teach them how to pray, because we would pray every day, before starting the classes, and just by seeing them like doing the same as us and praying and doing that at home, because the parents would come to us and say that they were doing that at home, was just incredible. But besides that, I was also teaching English to women, and this was such a wonderful experience because I had very good students, and we became real good friends, and we still have contact, we still talk. It was really nice because I got to know more about them, to show them love and care, and to show the Christian there was a Christian that was different from the way they thought I would be, because they have a lot of problems in Egypt related to Christianity and to Islamism. So I was able to share about what I believe, how I live, and to share about Jesus there. So it was an amazing experience. And after I left Egypt, I came here to Turkey. Right now, I'm not a part of the Adventist Volunteer Service anymore, although I'm a missionary, of course. Whatever I am, you must be. This is a rule for all the Christians. But I'm here serving as a Valdensian student. I don't know if you know about this project, but I actually got a scholarship to study here from the Turkish government. But besides that, I am also a Valdensian student. That means that I'm serving the Lord here inside a university. I'm gonna study here with the purpose of also share my faith and my beliefs to others. So just pray for me, and I hope this short testimony, experience that I had and I am having will motivate you to go and to serve the Lord in the place that He has prepared for you, because God just wants us to trust Him, that He will guide us to the best and to the place where He wants us to serve. So I want to encourage you to give your life to Him and to believe that He has the best, and He's preparing you to go around the world and to say, I will go, because that's what He wants. And we want Him to come back. So this is our hope and something we must do. So it was nice to be here with you. God bless you all. Bye.
Thank you so much, Liz, for sharing your experience with us. May God continue to bless the work you're doing there.
And now, yes, we're gonna go to our last guest, who will bring us a very interesting and also very important topic when it comes to going out as missionaries.
Yes, and I actually think this is a topic that is very important, not only for the mission, but for our daily lives. The topic we will be talking about today will be conflict resolution with Pastor Ronald Kuhn. He started his missionary career in 1985 when he was still a student as a volunteer in Rwanda. He has served as a regional director for ADRA Asia, based in Thailand, and regional director for ADRA and Global Mission for the American Division.
He's also been director of ADRA in Canada, Peru, Bolivia, Sudan, Somalia, Angola, and director of projects in Mozambique and Sudan. Since 2012, he has served as the associate director of the World Missions Institute at the General Conference.
Hello, my name is Ronald Kuhn. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Who knows? Today the world has been connected. When I first started serving overseas, we would wait for 1 month for a letter. And sometimes we don't know why the letter never arrived. So nowadays we have very fast communication, and we can communicate all over the world almost immediately. It is a blessing, and also causes some conflict sometimes. People expect things too fast to be done. And so, talking about conflict, the class today, a short class, is about cross-cultural conflict resolution. How do we deal with conflict across cultures? We cannot avoid conflict even in our own culture, let alone when we live in a different culture with different values, different ways of doing things, different beliefs, different religion. So this topic cannot be covered in few minutes. It is too big. And actually we train people for 3 weeks at the Mission Institute. And we cannot exhaust, even begin to scratch the surface. So I will give some tips, some examples of my own journey, how to avoid conflict. So why do we have cross-cultural conflict? One of the main reasons for conflicts across culture is the clash of values. My values clashing with somebody else's values. And I discovered that by the hard way when I first worked in Africa, and most of you watching maybe were not even born at that time. It was in 1985. I went to the beautiful country of Rwanda, and I made some friends. I was a volunteer there. I was working for the university. And after a few days, my friends started holding hands with me. And I was shocked. What is this? How come people come and grab my hand? In my country, a man does not hold hands with another man, except that if you're a cousin or friend or I mean, a family member, or there is a special reason for that. But normally, we will not grab some other man's hand and walk on the streets. So it was a clash of values. In that culture, it's a sign of friendship. Man can hold hands with man and walk on the streets. I learned later on, but in the beginning it was very difficult for me. So, clash of values. And as we say, it depends of your perception of the world, of your understanding of reality. So let me show you my screen here and ask you a question. Let's share the screen, and I want to ask you a question. What number do you see there? It depends of your frame of reference. It depends where you are. In this case, each one sees the same number. Well, they think they see the same number. It is 6 for one, it is 9 for the other. Well, it depends where you are looking from, not what you are looking to. So cultures follow similarly. Where am I coming from? What is my reference, my values, my understanding of reality and the world? Of course, there are universal principles, but the application is different. So quite often, we see things through the lens of our culture. And when we go to another culture, as you see this iceberg, you see the huge mountain underneath. So when you go to another culture, you do not see below the surface. So the only thing you see is that tip. And that we could represent as the values, the behavior, the outward appearance of things. So we look to people the way they do things and we see their behavior, generally speaking, or the expressions, the external expressions of the culture. But we don't know what goes below. Below we have the values and the beliefs and what we call worldview. Some people call it worldview, the understanding of reality. And those things are quite hidden. So in order for you to know, I would say, in order for you to succeed, you need to become a scuba diver. You know what I mean? You need to put some gear to see below the surface. So what is the first thing you do? What is the most important thing that you can do? Is to learn and to have an attitude to suspend judgment, to be open, to observe, to ask questions. I'll talk about that later on. So I'm illustrate what I want to express today about going as a diver, and you need to know the things to avoid conflict. Actually, those are lessons for us anywhere. We had a class for missionaries. We train missionaries. Sometimes those classes go for 3 weeks. And we had in one table a German pilot and a Korean pastor. So I asked the German pilot, if you disagree, you have a problem with your boss in Germany, what do you do? He said, well, I go to my boss and I talk with him directly. I state the problem and I may even give a suggestion. Oh, I said, and what does your boss normally say? Well, the boss may accept, may say, no, we do this because of this and this, or maybe, oh, this is a good idea, we could consider. So there is a direct communication. Sometimes outsiders may perceive these even as aggressive. They are fighting. No, they are just communicating directly. So I asked the Korean pastor, I said, in Korea, if you disagree with your supervisor, let's use an example in a factory or somewhere, you disagree with your immediate supervisor, what do you do? Well, he said, interesting that his response was not immediately. He reflected a lot, and then he said, well, I would talk to my father, who knows the uncle of my supervisor. And of course, the uncle is older than the supervisor. You see the indirect way. Some cultures are direct, some cultures are indirect. There has been occasions also during my cross-cultural service in different countries that I was a bit anxious. Why didn't this person speak in the meeting? I wanted them to speak. And I discovered that it is not polite for some cultures for you to disagree in front of your boss. So no matter how I tried in some cultures to make people easy, to give them the opportunity, they would not normally talk in the formality of the meeting, especially if they had to express their opinion that might be different than the boss. They will never want to be perceived as contradicting or disagreeing with the boss. So why do you need to be a scuba diver? You need to dive, and you need to see below the surface in that iceberg. You need to learn about different things. For example, we could say to people, what are the values of your home country that are different than the value of what you are experiencing? And you may wonder, what is it? Well, let me ask you and help you a different value from my culture. If I ask you, what is the most important event in your country, in the life of a person? You may say, well, maybe the wedding, all the family comes together, all the friends and the relatives, and it becomes a religious, generally speaking, there are many different forms, but generally speaking, becomes a religious and a legal ceremony where a big party happens. Well, if you ask some people in certain cultures, and actually there are billions of people that think that way, which one is the most important event in their lives? They will say the wedding ceremony. Sorry, they will not say the wedding ceremony. They will say the funeral and all the rituals of funeral. It is far more important because they believe in life after that, in reincarnation, and those who are going have influence on those who stay. So it has to do with your values and your beliefs. So you have to be a scuba diver. Well, let me share you another slide. The ABC for learning and for becoming a good scuba diver is ask questions, be open, carefully observe, and suspend judgment. Why I put that S in red? Because it's the ABCs of culture. But the S is so important because when we do not understand, we immediately attribute some negativity to the situation. We attribute a negative characteristic to a person or a situation based on the values of our culture. So when we don't understand, we dislike and we express. Well, then conflict arises because we don't know. Remember, I told you we don't know that we don't know. So I want to help you to understand some cultural values. For some cultures, as you can see, there is time orientation and they must be on time for meetings. But for some other cultures, as you see on the right side, is event oriented. The meeting will start when the people are there. Well, some people said the meeting will start on time, regardless if everybody is there. Those are cultural values. It is not so much about who is right or is wrong, although nobody wants to follow the culture and go into the airport. They may be left behind. So the world has learned how to balance this. And even many cultures that are more event-oriented, they follow many things on time. But there are some general characteristics that people are more flexible, and you have to be patient, otherwise there will be conflict. Some cultures are more task-oriented, other cultures are relationship-oriented. And don't worry, for those who are Spanish or Portuguese speakers, I have the slides here as well in those other languages. So relationships give more importance than the task. Well, let's say that I have to do something, but somebody, a friend, an old friend comes, well, I stop what I'm doing and I will entertain, I will treat that person with dignity and respect. Well, there are individual orientation, individualism versus collectivism or group-oriented societies. The activities done together as a group is more important than what I want to do as individuals. So quite often there is the peer pressure we call. People, they enjoy, in many of these cultures, they enjoy doing things together more than doing things alone. That's why we call individualistics versus collectivist societies. And there is also other aspects that the values of the culture determine what is important to them. And yes, there is my home culture values, there is the other culture values, and my personal values. When these three things, these three values clash, you have a tremendous potential for conflict. But you want to understand. So again, go and get your gear. Go and get your diving gear. Scuba dive, you have to learn and to go deeper, to learn how to understand the iceberg. Remember the iceberg. You have to understand the different values. Why is that? Because you want to avoid conflict, but not only that, you want to build bridges. You want to learn more. Remember the indirect way? If a Korean employee just goes directly to the boss and tries to address an issue directly, he might be infringing in what we have here, equality versus hierarchy orientation. In some cultures, we are all equal, except that one has the responsibility and is the chief or the boss, but everybody is equal and they can talk to each other directly. Well, in other cultures, as you see here, hierarchy is very important and quite higher in terms of equality, as we want to call. They are not really equal. They don't speak the same way to each other. There is respect for age, respect for position, respect for seniority, for family, for many things. And you have to learn that. It is not about, we're not here talking about so much about right and wrong. Yes, there is an example and there is an ideal, which is Jesus. He is our example always. But as we live in this world, in order to build the bridges, to start sharing the ideal way of living, as Jesus taught us, you have to adjust to the ways of the people. Well, how do you do that? Well, the Bible has some good advice, some good counseling. Let me stop sharing now for a minute, and then I'll go back. But the Bible gives us some advice, very wise advice, and many of these advices are indirectly found everywhere in the Bible. For example, if you start in Genesis 3, the first conflicting situation we have registered in the Bible is the fall of man. So Adam and Eve disobey God, and what they do, they hide. Then God come and approach them. How does God approach them? Asking questions. Well, hello, doesn't God knows everything? He asks 4 questions. That's the first interaction of God dealing with conflict. He asks 4 questions. How come? God, he knows, he reads my mind. He's asking questions. So why? I think the Lord wanted to teach us 2 things there, or many things, but I will mention 2. He wanted to show us a method to approach problems, conflict, in a neutral way. He was asking for people to realize and think by themselves what happened. So there will be no God pointing to them what they did wrong. So they understood. So asking questions, so we realize what we did. Well, there is also another way to ask questions. If you don't know, in that case, God knew. But he asked 4 questions. That's a wonderful lesson for us. The first conflict, he asked questions in a neutral way. When we approach people in a conflicting situation, normally we show our feelings, we show our displeasure, we show our disagreement. We immediately start to judge and we say this and this and this. Well, the Lord, he is asking questions, making Adam and Eve reflect on what happened. And they ended up telling the whole thing themselves. Well, it is interesting that the Bible registers many other aspects of conflict. The Bible illustrates sometimes conflict being addressed by telling a story. You remember Prophet Nathan? God, I'm sure, inspired him to go and rebuke the king. You made a huge mistake. But the king could even kill him. So he tells a story, a parable. What a beautiful story. And the king got so angry and to say, yes, that man needs to be killed. And Nathan said, you are this man. Suddenly the king realized through a story, a parable, a truth can be conveyed in a neutral way. Well, Jesus is our example, as I said, and he responded in many ways. And he quite often responded indirectly too. He wrote on the sand, he told a parable, he tell a story, even a folk thing that is not biblically even sound, the parable of the rich and the Lazarus, which is just a story, it's not to support life after death. It's just a story that the people believe. Jesus used those things to tell a greater principle, to show a greater principle. So one way to go about is to learn from the Bible how there are different ways to approach conflicting situations. Sometimes you use a third person, like the Korean uses his uncle to talk with his boss. And I want to just leave with you, I want to share the screen again and leave with you three verses that where the Bible tells us to how conflict can be minimized and how should be our attitude. Be completely humble and gentle, kind and patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. You see, humble, gentle, loving, patient, peaceful. That's Ephesians 4 and 1 Corinthians 9:20. To the Jew, I became like a Jew. To win the Jews, to the Greek, I became like a Greek. To the poor, to the weak, to those under the law, I became as one under the law. I became all to win them. So Paul is saying, I'm adjusting to win the people. I'm learning, I learn about them to win them. In Philippians 2, 5-8 is our ultimate example in our relationship. Relationships with one another have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. He humbled himself, took our nature, lived to serve and to love. I made it short because these verses are beautiful, that the King of the universe became one of us, humbled himself, took our identity, lived and died. He lived as a servant and died as a ransom, innocent one for us. So Paul starts saying, have in your relationships, have the same mindset, a mindset of a humble servant, a mindset of somebody who learned. Did Jesus learn? Did he go to school? Yes, he went to his mother's school. He learned from the Bible, from nature, from the community for 30 years. Some people, we don't need to spend much time learning about culture. Jesus learned his community, his countrymen, his, let's say, the traditions of his people for 30 years. But of course, his life was patterned after the kingdom of God, after the word of God, not after the examples and of the people in the community and their traditions, although he participated in everything that was possible. But he learned. So one of the first and most important things for anybody to avoid conflict is to learn and to have an attitude of servant, a humble heart, and suspend judgments. I will repeat here this ABC of culture. Ask questions, be open, carefully observe, and suspend judgment. It is biblical. Do not judge. So may God bless you as you step into the unknown, and there is no other way. You have to go. You have to experience. But learn as much as you can. And nowadays, you can learn from many sources. You can learn from the internet, you can learn from books, and you can learn from your iPhone. You have so many resources about different cultures, different values, or wherever you go. So become a scuba diver, buy your gear, learn about the people, and discover the hidden dimensions of their culture that you cannot see with your open eyes. You have to learn and go deeper. May God bless you. All the best.
What an interesting class, right? And how important it is to know how to solve conflicts, which will surely arise on the mission field, so that they do not prevent us from fulfilling the tasks that we must fulfill.
Now we're reaching the end of today's class. I don't know about you, but I still wanted to know more and to learn more.
Yes, me too. And the truth is that each of the classes has been a great blessing. But the time has come to say goodbye.
Yes, but before that, we're going to share one more call. In each of the classes, we show you different places where they need missionaries prepared to fulfill the mission. Do not forget to contact us if you're interested in any of the calls.
Välkommen till Sverige. Welcome to Sweden. Here at Lifestyle TV, we are passionate about one thing, mission. We're standing here in the middle of our media center studio where we produce programs that are being broadcast across Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. We also produce a magazine which we write and design and then send out for churches to share with friends and neighbors across the same area. Beside that, we have one more aspect of our ministry I want to show you. The other aspect of our ministry is hospitality. Here at Lifestyle Stay, we have both a hotel and retreat center and also a hostel down the road. This is a place where guests come to experience a vacation and adventure in nature, an amazing possibility to reach the heart of searching people. Now we're looking for volunteers that are interested in coming for 1 year and joining us here in Mission, either in the media aspect, working with cameras, editing, design, and so forth, or right here in hospitality, working with receiving guests, housekeeping, food service, and everything else that has to do with the guest experience and adventures out there. For more information, go to our webpage, mediamissionary.se. Welcome to Sweden and to Lifestyle TV.
Now we say goodbye. But do not forget to take today's exam. Remember, chapters will be 26th to 28th of the Passport to Mission book and today's class. Also remember that the final exam will be open from November 12th to November 20th. And after you have submitted everything and approved it, you will be able to download your certificate from the platform.
Yes, and we finished this course with a very grateful heart to God for being with us throughout the process and for allowing us to be part of this great mission of preparing missionaries to fulfill the work.
We also thank each and every one of you for joining us, and we hope that the School of Mission course has been one of great blessing and growth for each one. See you next year.
Pusiste una misión para cumplir, Señor. Llevar tu mensaje, anunciar que eres el Salvador.